Hey everyone, welcome to the Beyond the Letter podcast. Today we have had an incredible interview with Lana Vasquez from Life Impact International. She's a sex slavery abolitionist, sex slavery rescuer. She works in Thailand and Brazil, where she helps to rescue children who are sold off to sex slavery every single day. Thousands of children are sold off just to be able to put on a meal on their family's table, just to be able to take care of their family. Today we're going to have a conversation on what we can do to fight this, what we can do to help end this, and also hear an incredible story from an incredible individual who's given her life to rescue children from sex slavery. We hope you enjoy this podcast. Make sure to stay tuned for the end so that you can help support this incredible mission that Lana Vasquez has.
What were some of your trips while you were in America?
So I went Oklahoma, Kentucky, San Antonio, Amarillo, Norris City, Illinois. It's like the cornfields. It's like what scary movies are made of. Like seriously,
yeah.
but Kentucky's amazing. I went on a hayride. I haven't been on a hayride in like 15 years or something like that. It was on their land. We got like a deer antler stuck in the tractor tire. Like cool stuff like that. I was easily impressed because it's the country, right? So we did cool. I got to do some really cool stuff in Kentucky, Marion, Kentucky, Owensboro, Kentucky. So that kind of region. So it was Kentucky, Texas, Illinois, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
And Dallas.
You were out here for how long?
I'm out here altogether.
Yeah.
I think all I know is I shifted seasons. It went from summer. That's all I know. But they told me that I've been out here since my birthday, July. So I've been out here since the end of July. End of July. So August, September. We're in October, right?
Yep.
3.
And then now you're back. Wow,
insane,
almost 3 months.
Insane.
Yeah, you were here for 2 seasons for sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's all I know is that it starts to get cold. And I was out. It was 20 degrees in Oklahoma. I'm like, my teeth are shattering. It's freezing. All of a sudden I land in LAX and I'm like sweating. I'm like, what happened here? It's insane, right?
Yeah.
So there was some cold front, and then over there, and then here you got like a heat wave at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, out in California.
It was rough.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
So when you get back home, what does life look like right when you get back and you get started?
When I get back home, so I land and I brought my team from Brazil and my new team from the U.S. because we just opened office in Oklahoma. So they all land, they learn how to do what we're doing, and then they go back and start the first ever safe home in the Amazon in that area, in that region. So I land, my team lands, I show them how to do what we're doing, and then we're going to start Angola in February. So they learn that, prevent, rescue, heal, and they go and pattern it, they go and media it, they go and talk about it, they go back and do all that. I stay in Thailand for 1 month, handle all the fires that have been going off since I've been gone, do that. Then I go to Brazil, come back this way, and then head to Brazil and go to Amazon, the north, and Rio, in the favelas.
Wow.
Yes. I know.
So
I was locked down in a cage for a year and 8 months on the Thai-Burma border, right? And everything just kept going. So lockdown for a year.
During COVID?
During COVID. I couldn't leave. They wouldn't let you back in. Like they looked at it as a time to weed out all the missionaries because because it's still very much what they're wanting to do in their agenda. So if you left, I could lose everything. If I left, I want to be able to get back into my children.
This is the government. This is a specific
the government, in that region of what's going on right now. They're wanting to flesh out some. They're wanting a
what
certain
aspect of the missionaries do they not like?
Thailand's still 98% Buddhist.
Okay.
So anyone that's changing the old Thailand and making it something different and making it freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, anybody that's doing that, they want out. That's kind of not conforming and following in suit with the old regime.
Now, would they view you the same, being that you're rescuing, people from sex slavery?
Yeah.
You're still considered in their eyes a Christian missionary? Or?
Well, honestly, they in their eyes they need us because we're the where we're at on the Thai-Burma border. Nobody cares about the children that are trafficked, which are Burmese, so they don't want to spend one penny on it. So they need us more than we need them at this point. So they will be fine, but there's so much still in that, you know what I mean? They could make it very, very hard for me. And knowing what we do and what we've been doing, they could still make it very hard. And we knew people that literally couldn't get back in for a year.
Wow.
So we're like, stay put, you know, don't do that. And two, we didn't know with the coup and civil war happening, we didn't know, you know, what was going to happen. And so I just stayed with everyone and stayed at the base. And now,
Man.
Do they have vaccinations in that country? Forced vaccinations?
So am I like able to just stay whatever now?
Oh yeah, on ours.
Okay,
yes.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
Have you heard our first episode yet?
No.
Okay,
no.
well,
So they told me a little bit, so I'm like, I don't know how.
There is nothing off limits.
Okay.
You know,
okay. So and I could say anything.
You can say whatever you
Oh
want.
do.
gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh.
We're hoping you do that.
Gosh.
We're trying to go beyond the Christian cliches.
All
we
right,
want to go beyond the Christian cliches.
Buckle up. Oh gosh. So you asked me if there were forced vaccinations. So what people have to realize is where I'm at, I'm on the Thai-Burma border. So anything, and I'm in the Golden Triangle. So that's China, that's Burma, that's Thailand, and those three are connected. They're big brothers, like China, Thailand, and Burma. So anything that happens in China, COVID, vaccines, anything that happens, it is going to
I'm gonna push your mic a little closer.
Yeah. It's going to happen it's going to affect directly Thailand and Burma. So with all the vaccines, yes, we started all of a sudden seeing them make their own in Thailand and seeing the one from China get forced basically on everybody, to where even the government came to my property. I was in Bangkok for a meeting. The government came to my property and basically started bullying, so to say, my national staff, my house parents, and even for my kids, started bullying them. And thankfully, one of my daughters that was raised since she was 10 in my home, and now I put her through school, and she's the social worker and on the anti-trafficking rescue committee for the government. She stood up and she said, because I have 78 national staff. So she stood up and she said, we have rights. We have human rights. We know our rights. And you can't keep doing this. You can't keep bullying us. I could ask you to leave, and you could only come back when my founder and my leader comes back, because she will speak for us. And so you need to talk to my leader, and you can't do this to us. We know our rights. And because she works with the government, and because we raised her to have a voice, they knew they couldn't say anything. What they said on their way out is, okay, but we're going to make it really, they said, just know if you go down this road, it's going to be very hard, is what they said. And so it's going to be very hard. So she called me and she said, Mom, this is what happened. They said it's going to be hard. We got a call from and we're working with the head of social welfare. We're working with these high officials. She said, we got a call, and they said it's going to be, we're the government recognized safe home. So by law and decree of the Kingdom of Thailand, anybody that's trafficked from Burma into Thailand, any child that is rescued on the border, they must come through Life Impact stores.
Wow.
That is by law and decree of the Kingdom of Thailand. So what they're saying to us then is they're going to take away that, and they're going to shut us down if we don't comply and vaccinate them and our kids. And so so she called me and she said, Mom, they're going to shut us down. They said they're going to make it really hard to renew our agreement and our contract with them. What do you want us to do? And I just told them, tell them to do it. Go ahead, call their bluff. I need a vacation anyways. Like we all need a sabbatical. We're going to get a vacation. The kids will run away and hide in the jungle with the house parents. They'll still be safe. They know where to go. They know where to run, So we've already raised like a family there. Go ahead, tell them, tell them I need a vacation. Tell them. And so that's what happened. So she told them, go ahead. We called your bluff, and then we never heard from them again. So yes, they were trying to force it. They were trying to force specific vaccinations that they got the bigger profit from, because or the ones that they got for free, where some certain organization gave this much free to the Thai government, or this much millions of dollars to spend on vaccinations for the poor people in the nations. You understand? And so there's a bigger profit margin. There's a bigger thing. So it's kind of crazy that you asked that. So when all of that was going on here, we had a front row seat to see, actually, it's kind of bigger than that. And there's actually a lot of profit, and a lot of we were watching all of this from a bird's eye perspective. So we knew that it was being forced, and we knew there was another agenda, and we knew there was a bigger profit gap in that, and we know who does business together, in that.
Wow. So you said that your daughter said, hey, we know our rights and blah, 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 blah. in Thailand, because United States, we have our constitution, everyone says my amendment right of this and this and this. What would someone in Thailand, like in her case when she's saying our rights, what's your right structure? Is there a constitution? Is there what is the bylaws like? What made her be able to say, because I know in some countries there's no right, it's comply or don't. So if you have some rights, what is that parameter?
So back up. So Thailand is a monarchy. It's very much a conformist society. So it's a monarchy, and it is very much like that. In school, or even the doctors, you're not allowed to question anything. So you can't question the teacher. I'm the teacher, you're the student. So you sit down and you don't think for yourself. It's not taught to think for themselves. Like critical thinking skills are very low, because you conform. They all have school uniforms, even though it's not a private school, it's all public. They all have school uniforms. They have to cut their hair a certain length. Everything is conformity, and it is all corruption. So it is very much so that way, and it is very corrupt, and people don't know their rights or their laws. Here's the deal. We work with child protection. That's what we've been doing. That's all we've been doing for 21 years. So I have a political science major. That's the child protection officer, and on the 5C committee for the anti-trafficking task force with my daughter. That's the social worker. So we have to know our stuff. Like we have to know in working with that. So, but what she would know is you can't, so she would know the Child Protection Act of, I think it's 1995, where if you find a child regardless of age, race, ethnicity, you have to legally house that. You can legally house that children, and you can legally school that child and take care of that child and receive that child. If you know a child's at danger and you could prove it, if you go and get a police report and you can prove it. So even that alone, so when 60 women and children are trafficked daily from Burma to Thailand on my border, nobody would take Burmese children. We were the first safe home actually on our border. And when I asked a huge children's organization that this is what they do, it's a huge children's organization, why aren't you doing anything? And they told me there's 12 children that will be trafficked tomorrow unless we do something. And I said, well, why aren't you doing anything? They said, everyone's scared. They're scared of the police. They're scared of the border control. They're scared of the government because they're illegal Burmese children. But then we found out about that Child Protection Act. We framed it. We put on our wall. If corrupt police come, if anybody comes, there's a Child Protection Act. Most of the people don't even know about that. So most of the people don't know, and this is the problem. This is how corruption, this is why Thailand is #1 in the world for children involved in prostitution under the age 18, 200,000. These are right. They don't know their rights. They don't know these things. So the reason my daughter knows in that and what their rights are is because they study that. They have to know that to protect themselves against corruption, to protect themselves in these scenarios, to protect themselves in different things. We have to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. So she's going to know things as a social worker, and he's going to know things as a child protection officer that nobody else knows, that's going to protect us and protect children. That's why they do what they do, and that's why they're the voice for the voiceless, and that's why they take that seat in the government, because they're the only ones that can fight and actually bring a light and bring real change in that area, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So in Thailand, is Thailand the epicenter of child trafficking? Yeah. And so given that, and prostitution, given that, explain the context and the history for why that is. Yes. How did that come about?
Yes, I think there's two things. I think there's a mentality, and I think, and then just natural circumstances. What I found out when we were digging into this, we found out because of a lot of with the war, there was a lot of soldiers stationed in Utapao and different bases, and prostitution came, just like Vietnam and different areas. Prostitution came really strong in that area. Now it's developed into children forced into prostitution just because of the darkness and the evil against children. Thailand is known as the armpit of the world for children involved in prostitution. Wow. The armpit, it is the epicenter. Oh. There is, for sex tourism, I mean, you go into the red light district and there's different languages. There's Japanese, there's Chinese, there's an area where it's like Western, and there's just Australians that go there. There is rings, and it is the epicenter in the world of that. Part of that is the mentality of for us, children are our future. Children are our legacy. They're an investment. We know we're not going to get a huge return off of them. And so we invest into their future, their investment. And later, the investment for us is their life, their legacy, that they just succeed. There's a different mentality in Asia. Part of it's beautiful, part of it's twisted, but part of it is the child is as soon as they can supposed to take care of their elder. Part of it's beautiful, and there's a respect there. There's a great respect, but then it gets twisted into manipulation and use. So as soon as that child can make money or you can get a profit, there's a song even that they sing on Mother's Day, and it says, "Mom, you gave me milk, and so now it's time for me to give back to you. Now I could walk, and it's time for me to give back to you." And so there's this pressure on them to provide for their family as soon as they can, as soon as they could start making money. And even in the culture, the youngest daughter, even if she's a maid or whatever, and let's say the oldest brother is a doctor, it is still her responsibility to take care of the family. So youngest daughter taking care of the family equals prostitution, in that, to be able to do that in that society. And so it's a very mindset, it's a very cultural thing in that has just got so twisted, and some of them are still tricked. They go into these poor villages and say, your daughter will be a housemaid, or look at, she's going to come work in this restaurant, or we're going to take her into the city and we're going to educate her. And that's where we have to do awareness, and we do trafficking awareness into the pools where the traffickers get these kids. And that was, I think that was further back. There's more awareness now, but 21 years ago when I first started, there wasn't. And that's how our prevention home started. You'd go to the villages where the traffickers were going and get these kids before the bad guys got them. So in that, I think there's been a little bit more awareness. There's less tricking, and now it's more of a cultural norm. Oh, my friend's going to go work at that coffee shop, or my friend's working at that restaurant, and it's fine. And then the friend becomes the recruiter into that. And so, it's very, very normal. 14, 15-year-olds, I can take you to the red light district of Thailand right now, and they're out there, just dancing on a table with just empty eyes, just with this glazed over look. But what happened was they got them when they were 8, 9, 10, 11, and they seasoned them, like they say like an elephant, where you put a chain to them, and then they think they can't run. And then when they get older, then they don't run. They keep that chain on them. And that's what they do. They season them, break their will to run away. They torture them, they beat them, they threaten them. They threaten they'll kill their families. They know where they live. They'll tell their family what they've done, and it's their fault, and they shame them. And that shame's just unbearable. So they feel like they're stuck and they never leave. And then they won't run. And they could put them out there in the open bars in the red light district. So there's such a process, and there's such a history of why, and it is too the history of the culture, but then also mentality, and then also corruption, in that, with the corruption. I believe the age of what is that, where you consent, the age of consent, I believe is 14 there.
Wow.
So that plays a part in it as well.
Man. So during the global quarantine, like parts of Hawaii and stuff like that, the parts where tourists were always at, there was fish that started coming, like new life started kind of coming at. During the global quarantine in Thailand, did sex trafficking and what was happening in Bangkok and stuff like that, did it diminish, or what was happening during that time? Like, was it like, man, see, without these tourists, we don't have as much of these issues, or was the issue still the same? You know?
It wasn't the same, thankfully, because their model, they weren't ahead of it. They were still that supply and demand model of the tourism and the sex tourism capital of the world. So when tourism stopped, everything shut down. Yeah. So thankfully that shut down. And a lot of them were sent home, actually. A lot of them were sent home. So that part and that way did stop. That did, it did slow that down, which was in a good way. What we started to see, though, was so we have a lot of China moving into Burma. So we started seeing these gambling, online gambling rings and these kinds of things. We started seeing what Cambodia has, which is its online child exploitation. So you do a lot of, you can't monitor a camera with a parent videoing their 7-8-year-old little girl, right? And you can make that much, distribute that, and make that much more money. So the hard part is it was good in that kind of physical really slowed down and stopped, because it was at a stop. I mean, everything was shuttered. It was a complete stop. So that part was good. We did see, just like in Brazil as well, we saw an increase in domestic sexual abuse. Like, we rescued a girl that was almost impregnated by her father, and she was only 11. So we saw a lot of the domesticated start happening then when all the doors are shut. We saw it in Brazil. We're getting all kinds of crazy calls. So what was happening behind closed doors? So you see that domesticated sexual abuse rise then, maybe not the prostitution, but then the sexual exploitation within the home and the sexual abuse within the home rise. So that shifted a little bit, and then it shifted to starting to go on to online rings, which is harder to detect, and you can do way more, a lot more damage too. You know, I'll give you one example. So how close that is and how much that reached. There was a guy here that worked on my dad's job site down in, they were in Northridge, I believe. And it was here. And my brother, they worked in construction, and he'd come up, and my brother said he'd come in with a different vehicle all the time. And my brother said, hey, I know construction doesn't pay that much. What's going on? And he started talking about something with children, different things. And he goes, hey, I have 2 boys. I want nothing to do with this conversation anymore. At that time, it wasn't as, I mean, this is years ago, so it wasn't as populated as it is now. Wasn't as aware, but he came to me after. He goes, I'm shooken up. Like, this guy was saying, I think it might be something. I have no proof, but I think it might be something. And we're talking about, I said, okay, keep your ears out, keep your eyes out, and let's see what we can do. Not too long later, an ad came out, like some kind of news flash deal. There was this guy that got busted, and it was 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, and 2 little girls. He had come to Thailand, to the little town that I was at that time, Chiang Mai, Thailand, the second largest area. But what had happened was there was a dark web, an underlying child sex ring. So he had flown to meet them. They'd already been sold on the dark web. He'd already met them on the dark web, and then he was meeting them in person. He did some videoing, and he said these girls are too drugged to fight back. And then so swirled their faces, put it online. FBI, fast forward, FBI, that pops up. FBI come to the job site about 3 days later, start putting this guy in a car. My brother said, hey, man, what happened? He goes, put it this way, do you have children? And he said, yes, I have 2 boys. And he said, you don't want this guy anywhere near your children. But that's like the connection, and that's how far and how quick the online dark web, underground sex exploitation, but then ends up to sex tourism circle is, you know. So that's what kind of popped up a little bit more during the time when the actual brick and mortar brothels closed down.
Have you seen the movie Taken?
Yes, sir.
How accurate is that to what goes on in that realm of like kidnapping?
Yes. So I would say that's European, and that's very much real. Thailand has been how do I put this? Thailand, all the brothels are owned by the police, so that part is real, like the government's in on it, the police are in on it, all the brothels, and then all the police are owned by the Chinese mafia. Wow. And so yes. So in that, if you go into a brothel on my Thai-Burma border and I go and do that, I'm dead tomorrow, really. Like, I probably can't get out of that country, right? So you do have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove in how you do things and how you fight. So very much so how powerful and how strong in these strongholds, it's very much real. Like that movie Taken, Europe is more aggressive, I would say, and more dangerous than where I'm at in Asia, just because kind of like you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you, and there's more stealth ways to go about stuff, I guess you can say, you know. And so anyways, but it is very. Now,
have you ever had to do some gangster stuff like Liam Neeson did in these situations? Have you ever
Yes. So
Hey, we got the real Liam Neeson.
Right.
Like, we're interviewing the real Liam Neeson right now.
So at one point I had to kidnap some kids from the traffickers. Yeah. So on the border, they would send them, first they get it, the way they get these children involved are these begging rings. So they go from Burma to Thailand. There's an area called no man's land, and there's just no jurisdiction there. There's no authority. It's just the no jurisdiction. That's where they house all the drugs, all the children. That's like the supply of everything. Everything's housed there because nobody has power over that. And so that's where we go a lot to rescue. We've rescued so many children from that area. And there was this one time we were rescuing children left and right from that area. Well, there was this one little boy, and he was the money maker, and they were trying to get them. They're trying to hold him back from me because they knew just right when he came with me, we'd be out and we'd disappear. And so they were holding him back. They were hiding him. And so they were hiding him, and I was looking for him all the time. They knew kind of who I was. Basically what they say is the dark girl that speaks Thai. Like I'm the dark foreigner girl that speaks Thai because they don't know what I am. They don't know I can be Indian very much so over there. Everyone thinks I'm from India, and they think I'm Indian.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, okay, look out for the dark girl that speaks Thai.
Do you got like a gangster nickname out there?
I
should create one.
I should, right?
You should have one.
Well, when we
A
go,
code name.
Like the ghost, like the Indian ghost.
That'd be
or
awesome,
something.
right? That'd be awesome.
If you don't have one, we got to make one.
Right? Oh gosh, that would be awesome. I think my cover's blown now, though.
Right,
But at that time, I never wore logo stuff. I never wore anything identifying me. We didn't have stickers on our vehicles. At that time, we just did other things to kind of try to blend in, because it's hard to find out where the dark foreigner girl that speaks Thai is if they just say that, right? And they'll be like, oh wait, she always comes by here at this time. And we'd switch it up days and months and times and everything like that. So one day we were walking and we were in that area, and I was looking for him, and all of a sudden he popped up. And I'd been negotiating with the mama-san. A mama-san is like a grandma or a mom that they put over the begging ring, the
like
girls.
The pimp.
Yeah, she's like the pimp to take care of the girls. She gives and do all that. And it's a manipulative thing because these girls need a mom. These kids need a mom still. So it's a very manipulative thing. So we go to them and negotiate, and they're like, no, I'm the grandma. And I'm like, she's tatted down. I was like, you ain't the grandma.
gosh.
Like, I'm not stupid, And so we would already negotiated with her twice, and she's like, no, he's not here. I'm with the grandma. And he was up there in the little loft, and he started throwing spitballs down at us. And I'm like, he's not here, and different stuff. So we'd already been in this negotiation. Well, somehow he got free, and he was right there, and he came straight up to me and looked at me. And so we start talking and different things. And at this point, he's only 4, but he is their biggest moneymaker. This little boy had dimples. He was the cutest thing. He was their biggest moneymaker. And you can tell, like, after we...
And for people that might not be putting the math together, moneymaker and sex, right?
Yes. So, and this is, you can't all of a sudden put them in counseling because you don't want to trigger their trauma. So these are the indicators. He would, right after we rescued him, literally right after we rescued him, we brought him to the children's home, and he's playing. He's so happy. He runs and jumps in my lap, and he gives me like this lingering kiss on my cheek. And you can feel like that's not a kid's kiss. Like somehow somebody taught him how to do that. You know what I mean? You can tell when a kid kisses you. And in Asia, they don't kiss. In Asia, they don't touch, they don't do that. So it was like this lingering kiss, and I'm like, oh, like he, you just know. And there's just indicators when they start doing things and acting out and stuff. And so, our youngest child victim was 1.5 years. We took off a little boy's diaper, and 1.5 years, and he was messed with in that area. And so it took a lot of healing, So there is very much an attack against children in this area. And that's specifically what we work with, the children that have been exploited. But so this little boy, I knew he was the moneymaker. I knew they were wanting to keep him off the street, keep him away from me for a reason. Anyways, he popped up. So I start talking to him. I hold his hand, and he grabs my hand. All of a sudden, the mama-san comes up, and she grabs his other hand, and she's like starts pulling him away to take him back into Burma, just like a stone's throw right there. We're on the border. She'll take him back. I'll never see him again, and he'll disappear. I will never be able to get him again. That was my moment to strike. I actually was with a missions team. I think they were actually friends from Bangkok that were missionaries, and they had their little daughter. They all spoke Thai, had their little daughter daughter that was like 8, 9 years old. We had the couple, and I just said, hey, lock arms, make a human chain, stay right here. I'm going to go get that little soldier, that 21-year-old soldier that doesn't even know what's going on, tell him who I am, and tell him to get over here and to be a part of, to be the witness so that I don't go to jail for child trafficking. And so anyways, they do a human chain. The little girl starts keeping him occupied and talking to him and playing with him. They grab that lady's arm. I said, I know she seems like a sweet, innocent grandma, but she is a mama-san. She is a trafficker. And if you feel bad for her, she's going to take that little boy, and you will never see that little boy again. You have to understand what we're dealing with right now. You're not dealing with a sweet, innocent grandma. You are dealing with a trafficker right now. And so I said, make a human train and just trust me. Please don't let go of her arm. No matter how much she cries, it's going to get bad, but please don't let go of her arm. So they didn't. And they all made a human chain. Nobody let go of anybody. I went and got that soldier guy. He came up. She knows she's a trafficker. So she's just the watcher, right? So all of a sudden she gets scared and she drops everything and she starts to run. We get the little boy. We throw him in the van. We get it. All of a sudden there's word on the street. They're looking for you. Like, don't come back. They're looking for you. Don't come. Stay. Like, I literally got a call from one of our secret informative ladies that's right there. And she said, they're looking for you. Don't come back for a month. And so I couldn't come back for a month. To the border. Crazy. It's insane.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
So the missionaries, were they Thai or were they American?
No, they were American. They're from Texas, from San Antonio. So I was like,
were they traumatized by this experience?
Well, at first they were. At first they were. But then it was so neat because and he was a little scared, like, what's going on? But they got in that van, and that little girl happened to have, she brought a whole bag of her old toys, Legos and toys. And so she got that little bag, and they started playing in the van, and that little boy forgot what was happening.
Wow.
God just specifically not just had those missionaries there, but that daughter there too, that 8, 9-year-old. God used that little 8, 9-year-old girl at that moment. Wow. That would be the only thing that would probably calm that kid down, is another kid. And when a kid sees another kid's not scared or not afraid, that's the only thing that calms kids down. And as soon as we got him to the safe home, it was like Disneyland. He's like, and we asked him, he ate right away, and he said, they hadn't fed me. I said, what happened today? And they said, they beat me today. And he showed me the marks and everything like that. And everything changed after that, you know? And so, and they'll tell you, they don't know at 4 years old what not to tell you. So they'll tell you everything. They beat me, this and this, and they're as they feel comfortable to tell. So it was pretty neat. They were, the ladies were the ones that had to hold on to the grandma, but the little kid thought it was the coolest thing that she brought her toys for that rescued kid. Wow. And that was the very thing that it helped with that rescue. Isn't that so cool that an 8, 9-year-old little girl got to be
How old would that
of
girl be now?
How
teenager?
Her name's Bella. She's so sweet and precious. She would probably now, that boy was 4 and he's about 14 now. So that'd be 10. So she'd be 18, 19 years. Wow. Yeah.
Incredible. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like your hands are very full.
Yes.
In Thailand.
Yes.
What made you be like, okay, we're doing this in Thailand, we're going to Brazil now?
Okay. So this is crazy that you say your hands are full. So because I say this, my hands were full with Thailand, and not just Thailand, but Burma. So we started those kind of kids. We started, it's called House of Hope for the kids that they wouldn't let come on the other side, on the Thai side. We started a rescue home on the other side for the kids in those rings, in those trafficking rings. It's called House of Hope. And so we had 3 homes in Burma before the coup and the military junta took it back over. So I always say it like this: my hands were full, one with Thailand, one with Burma, all the while holding Brazil in my heart. And when I was faithful to do what God put in my hands for that season, he took care of what was in my heart, which was Brazil, because I'm not even there. And we're launched in 3 areas in Brazil, in the most focused areas for child exploitation. So the crazy thing is, people don't realize it's backwards. Like, I never signed up for Thailand. I didn't go to Thailand because I heard about it's the 8-year-old girl virginity goes for $24. It's a number 1 hub of child prostitution. Babies will go for $18. I didn't sign up for Thailand because of that. I was only supposed to be in Thailand for 2 months. 2 months turned into 6 months. Wow. the first face I saw at 14 years old, she came up to me and said, you don't have a mom, you don't have a daughter. I don't have a mom. From this day forth, I'm your daughter and you're my mom. And I became mama to 52 kids in a prevention home at 24. And so I fell in love with those kids. And I'm like, I can't just leave them. I can't just go for 2 months on a missions trip and leave these kids. But I never signed up to move to Thailand. I signed up for Brazil. Thailand was supposed to be 2 months. 2 months and turned into 6 months. 6 months turned into a year and a half. At 24, became mama to 52 kids. At 25 and a half, became the founder of an international organization that fights against child exploitation. But I never signed up to do that. Wasn't my plan. That wasn't my 10-year plan. It was just like steps of obedience. And, in Psalm 37, where it says, trust in the Lord and just do good, do the good that's in front of you. And I think the good that was in front of me was to do this home and to do something in Thailand. And then Burma opened up. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do the good that's in front of me, but all the while knowing that I was supposed to work in Brazil. So just rewind a little bit. I was in between like just my first and second year. I was going to Bible school and kind of just deciding, okay, God, what did you, I knew I was rescued to rescue. I knew God rescued me for a purpose, and just asking God, what is that purpose? Like I knew I was a go-go dancer in the clubs of Hollywood. I got radically saved and my life changed, but I knew it was right when things were getting dark and my friends were really getting involved in some dark things in that scene and in the go-go dancing scene, the Hollywood club scene, all the dancing scene. And so I was like, I knew that I got rescued just at the right time. So it's like, God, why did you do that? I know that I know it's because you love me, but I knew it was for a purpose beyond me or greater than me. I knew that I was rescued to rescue at 19 years old. So what does that look like? What are more pieces to the puzzle? Help to fill in this, coloring book of the plan for my life. And so part of that, in between that, when I was asking God these questions, I heard a missionary from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and he talked about 200,000 street kids in the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and that you can see 5-year-olds walking around sniffing glue to kill the hunger pains because glue is cheaper than food in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wow. And that there's more kids on the streets than there is food in the dumpsters. Now to this day, that number is anywhere from 200,000 to 8 million children that are on the streets of Brazil. And that the store owners would pay off the police to line these kids up and just massacre them and then dump their bodies in the open rotting sewages, and that you can smell the bodies of rotting children in the sewages of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and nobody cares because they look like a problem that won't go away. They're just street kids having more kids, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, just kids having more kids. So nobody cares. They're like, they're like flies to them that are multiplying. So nobody really cares. Nobody's claiming them. Nobody's caring about them. Nobody's going after them. They just look like more like a problem that won't go away. And I heard this, and I'm sitting in my little itty bitty church of God that I got saved at, 100 people maybe, and I'm just in the back of the pew, and I'm just weeping, like tears are just streaming down my face. And here I am. At that point, I think I was 22, 23, and I'm like, what is going on here? But at that time, like a seed got planted in my heart, and the pastor's wife came over to me and said, what do you want to do for the Lord? And out of my heart said, I want to work with exploited children internationally. And I remember my aunt was sitting next to me, and she goes, you do? And I said, I guess that's what I said, like it just came out. And so at that moment, actually, I set my face to go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. That missionary came up to me and said, Lana, he said, I saw you were wrecked. I saw this happen. When you graduate Bible school, I heard you have another year in Bible school. When you graduate, come work with us. I have a home for street kids in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Come work with us. Wow. I said, done. I had the application printed. I had everything printed. And I was, that was where I was going to start. So that's why I said, I never signed up for Thailand. I'm Latin in an Asian country. Yeah, right. I'm loud. I like beans. I like touch, and I would fit way better in Brazil. I'm aggressive, and Thais are very passive. They're very calm. Right. They're not touched. They don't touch you. Like when I want to hug the pastors, but I have to go like this and like do a little pat on their head, I can't touch their head because I have to touch their side, And so it's like, it's so opposite. It took forever I've been there 21 years and it took forever for me to even be comfortable there, because I'm always trying to like tone it down, Wow. And so in that, like the natural fit, I thought I'd go straight to Brazil. but I love God's plan because went to Thailand 2 months, signed up for Brazil thinking the end game was Brazil. But every year I'd say, is it time yet, God? Is it time? And every year I'd hear, no, not yet. No, not yet. And then at one point when I knew things were going to get big in Thailand, I knew what we were going up against. I knew that if we're going to really tackle child exploitation, really go to the mouth of the river, cut the head of the dragon off where the children were being trafficked, we were going to get into deep waters. I knew I had to be protected beyond a little foundation. And so I knew I had to get legal, like really legalized to protect ourselves. Just in my heart, I knew it. And so we started a rescue foundation where I'm the chairman, so that if anything, they can't pin it on me that I was trafficking children or kidnapping children. So we set all this up, and I remember signing my name, and that means that I am the chairman of the Thailand Foundation Board. That means that my face and that everything's connected to my work permit and visa. That means if they took me out, like everyone would know, and that's how we set it up. That if anything happened, everyone would know what happened. And so we set it up, but that also meant my commitment to Thailand. I would never get to Brazil. And I remember saying to God, I guess you use Thailand or you use Brazil to help me to work with exploited children. Maybe use that to make me aware and to put this in my heart. Like, okay, I lay my Isaac on the altar. Like, I just lay this dream down. And if you ever want to pick it back up, there you go. I put it on the shelf. I just lay my Isaac down, lay it on the altar, lay this promise down. I thought it came from you, but maybe I made it up. And so I just lay it down. 2 weeks later, I get a call from a pastor that I went to Bible school with, and he said, Lana, we heard about what you're doing for Thailand. The children of Brazil need you. Wherever you're at in the world, we will fly you to Brazil. The children of Brazil are crying out and calling out for you. Will you come to Brazil? And this was 10 years into it. And so I really believe that Brazil exploded because I was faithful with what God put in my hands at that time and stayed faithful with that. And he was taking care of what was in my heart.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's
awesome.
awesome.
I want to ask you, in regards to kind of what's going on right now in America and Europe with it's more in the public psyche, child sex trafficking as it relates to the elites with Epstein Island. You know, Epstein didn't kill himself is a popular meme. Everybody says now, and we're coming to the realization that this happens. It's slavery has not ended.
Yes.
You know, it's horrific to the point where you don't want to believe it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so, we were talking in my dad's office a couple weeks ago about this testimony that's floating around YouTube that I was really blown away by. Annika Lucas, I think. And she was a European sex traffic victim. And she describes her testimony as being one of the victims of the elites, and how the elites in these governments, make their rounds with these children. And I guess my question is, explain to me the mindset of that. Like, is it a sexual fetish for these people, or is it darker and deeper than that, like a lust for control, a Luciferian sort of worship of the devil, a sacrificial sort of a ritual? Can you explain that? Do you have any insight into the mindset of somebody who commits these acts?
Yeah, that's so a little bit. I don't, for me, for 21 years, my focus has been like around the world, and children specifically, at-risk exploited children in the nations. Thailand, when we started, America, when we started getting involved and just networking with different people and really hearing about this, I met with someone in Thailand, and they're like, Lana, U.S. is the number one for trafficking, actually.
Wow.
U.S., not these countries, with all this. U.S. is number one for human trafficking. And it's just so well hidden. It's just so well controlled. Yeah. It's just so much money, and it's just so much more dangerous. And I feel like if you asked all those questions, like, is it power? Is it just a Lucifer spirit? Is it all these different things? I feel like the answer is yes to all of that, because if you think, how dark does your heart and mind have to be to be able to do that to a child or to a kid, or to be able to take a person's soul like that, like, or to, you know, to really, I mean, to look at them and not see, you know, your own sister, your own mother, your own daughter, your own son, your own brother, like how sick does it have to be? And for me, what I really believe is, you see it in, and this is the best way I could explain it. You see it even in the Bible where there was just such an attack against a generation. And I feel like it is just another form of attack. You see it when they just wiped out a whole generation. You see it in the same thing with abortion. You see it in the same thing where I feel like it's another way to take out a generation. It's another way to take away their purity, to take away their hope, to take away their dreams, to just really just take that away and destroy that. That's such a, not just a murderous spirit, but like you said, a lustful spirit, you know, it's such a controlling, lustful spirit. I mean, when I walk in the red light districts of Thailand, it's so crazy because when I'm walking, I literally involuntarily feel my fists clenching up, like, and I'm so volatile. I feel like if somebody just went like this, and I think that's what happened. I took a missions team there and I was showing them the problem. And one guy, he wasn't even thinking, and he put his hand on my shoulder to ask me something. And I literally went to swing at him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's just natural instinct. Everything in you rises up when you feel like there's such a spirit of attack, such a victim thing. When you feel that exploitation, when you feel the enemy just taking advantage of it, something in you rises up for that, you know? And so I feel like, it's such a hard, not so hard answer, such a complicated thing because it's all of the above. There's so much evil that is working in that in so many ways. I feel like it is a personal lust thing. I feel like there is different things, but there is also a demonic thing to take this from this generation, to take that, because once you do that, these girls, not girls, boys too, commit suicide. Everything's taken, that shame. They can never live a normal life again. The way they're tortured. You're stealing everything from them. You're taking everything from them, you know, and their life. It's not just their virginity. It's their life. It's their future. It's their soul. And so there's so much in operation in that, if you would say. And specifically to the U.S., I don't know if there's so many more people that would be so much better at speaking to this, but I know the spirit behind it in general, in the overarching spirit, no matter where you're at in the world, you know, in that's the same spirit that's operating no matter where you're at. Sorry, I
heard something crazy regarding San Bernardino. I think specifically Fontana, but if it's not, you know, forgive me for hating on Fontana. But San Bernardino, someplace local, the local either Fontana or San Bernardino, the Walmarts is where it happens a lot as far as kidnapping goes. Gosh. And it's either Fontana or San Bernardino County Walmarts, where they'll, you know, a parent looks over for a few seconds and their kid is snatched from them, you know, and these white vans are always in the parking lots and stuff. So watch out, be on guard.
Yes,
this stuff is
very
real.
much more prevalent. What we're seeing a lot of, they say one of the number one pools for America is when the kids age out from the foster care system, that there's nothing to catch them. There's no net. So there's already boyfriends grooming them, and it is the pipeline. It's one of the number one pipelines. Craziest thing, I was just, to see how much more prevalent it's getting, I was just in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and that's called the Bible Buckle of the U.S., right? And so I was there at a football game with one of a friend's family. We're at a football game, just a simple high school football game. We're sitting there. All of a sudden, like, my spidey senses went off. These three girls come up, and you could just tell they're so downcast. One girl, she told me she was 16. The other one looked about 15. The other one maybe 17, but they're in that 14 to 17 age range. And they're slouched over. They're just, you see no life. I mean, when you're that age, you're looking around at a football game for cute guys, right? Yep. You're not walking in hunched over. You're not walking. And they were coming off of something, so they were fully glazed. You could just tell they were coming down from something, but they were very much you can tell they were very much controlled or scared or intimidated or groomed or seasoned. And it just kept going off. And she literally sat, all three of them sat right in front of me, passing back and forth the e-vape, and then I started looking. They had tats all over from here, their necks, all over. And I saw one in one of the girls, and it happened to be like a shield with a rose and an eye. And you can tell that was more of a branding. That's what, the pimps do. And so that was more of a branding. And I, just because in this line of work, I realized, okay. And that's what I was looking for on them. Are there brands? Are there names? Is there a diamond? Is there different things? So when I saw that, I was like, this is probably what I'm thinking it is. So I just I was just, give me an opportunity to talk to her. So I finally just leaned over and I said, honey, are you okay? And she literally laid back on my leg and she was like, no, I'm not okay. And I said, can you tell me what's going on? And she just started talking to me about her life. She has a 1-year-old son back. I said, well, where do you live? And she said, well, between here and OKC, Oklahoma City. And I'm like, and she goes, I have an auntie here. I go back and forth. And that's what they do. They work in a different city so they don't get caught. Mm-hmm. So they'll go back and forth between Oklahoma City and Broken Arrow. She starts talking to me more. I said, honey, let me give you my number. If you can call me, I'll be here for you. You need me, we can talk some more after you get some rest, different things. She goes, well, I don't have my phone. It's getting fixed. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, well, give me her. I see she has a phone. They kept borrowing this one phone. So let me get her number. And so I got it. I called it to make sure, different things. So I put my number in there. I said, if you ever need anything, this is my name. I put my name and said, this is our number. This is who you call. This is what you call, okay? And she started talking. The little girl just started crying. Start talking to me, okay, different stuff. I mean, you could tell she was actually the ringleader from mm-hmm. them. And from everything she was telling me, all this stuff, her mama passed away of cancer, her best friend died, she wrote her suicide note on her arm, all these different things. You can just tell she had already been in that situation, no care, no given. She's with an auntie. Auntie's basically pimped her out or has sold her to the traffickers, and she's going back and forth. And this is her situation. She has a son. She's trying to send some money back home for him, or they're holding him saying, we'll kill your son. We have your son. And it blew my mind mm-hmm. because I'm like, my gosh, who would have thought, if it's in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, like it is so predominantly and so predominant and in our face right now in the U.S. at such levels, at the elitists, but then also at the football game that we go to for a high schooler football game for one of our relatives.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's in our backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What frustrates you most about the problem? Is it do the governments frustrate you most? Do the individuals taking advantage of this economic exploitation, mm-hmm. the gangs? Like, maybe it's all of it, but is there a particular energy that maybe just really frustrates you the most? That why can't we figure this part out? Is there anything like that?
Yes. So one thing is in the countries that I work, the mindset. So I remember I was in this one, we went to one of the most dangerous favelas in Brazil. It's called City of God. And you go in and there's a guy with an AK-47, one way in, one way out. And you have to have your windows down and the light on. And then it looks like a market. And there's just any kind of bag of any kind of drug that you want. It looks like a fruit stand, but it's a drug stand. There's a little girl right there. You go in. If you're okay, they let you go in. We have approval. We have people that work in there. So we're okay. We go in. They take me to this project and they're telling me about this little girl that she's been selling her body for rice and beans since she was 8. She's now 12. The family have become believers. They go to a church, but they can't. I say the family, the mom and the other sisters, but they can't get this particular little girl stop her from selling herself. And that the drug traffickers, I guess she did something with them. She must have done them wrong or not did one of the acts that they wanted her to or something. But they said, next time we see that girl, we're going to kill her. So she had to stay in this one-bedroom shanty, her one-bedroom area, and couldn't leave for 3 months. This girl did not have sunlight for 3 months and had to leave there. She's 12. And so they said, they're telling me all of this. They're like, we're going to go in and see her. Walked in and saw her. She's in this bright red bra, these little Daisy Duke shorts with everything hanging out. She's 12. I see her. We come back to the center, and we're all talking about this story more. They're telling me mom was a prostitute. Now daughter's a prostitute. Mom's not a prostitute anymore, but now they can't stop her daughter. So they're telling me all of these stories and or all of this situation. And I'm just sitting there and my heart's just breaking and tears. And to see their faces is so different. I saw a girl, she's 8 then, but they were like, when she was 5, she'd do sexual acts for a banana for her brother, like to see their faces, like it just breaks you, in such a way. And so when I went back, I just sat there and the girl in the family wasn't around. I just started weeping, just crying, and everyone's just looking around stoic. And I was like, and I looked up at my interpreter. I said, can I ask you guys something? And they said, yeah. And I said, are you guys interpreting the situation right to me? Do I understand the situation? Because like, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. And I repeated back what I just told you. And they said, yeah, you're saying it right. You're saying it right. And I said, okay, can I ask you a question? And the whole room said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, why aren't any of you crying? Right. Like, why aren't any of you crying? And they all looked down. And my interpreter, the one guy, he looked up and he said, because it's normal in Brazil. Because this is normal. Like, this is our reality. It's normal. And I just said, it's not normal for a child to have to sell their body for a basic right. It's not normal that they are not forced into trafficking, but they are freely prostituting themselves for rice and beans, and that the country is over-sexualized. And because of that, like, that is the natural path for anything they want. Cell phone minutes, a cell phone, anything they want, food in the refrigerator. Like, I can't tell you how many houses I went to that the 13-year-old girls proudly opened up the refrigerator and smiled and said, this is what I made, like, proud with no shame. And so I think one of my frustrating things is the mentality, and that that wants to be my life message. Like, why don't they cry? Like, I want to say, why don't they cry? Why aren't people would stop getting overwhelmed with it and stop using that as an excuse. I don't want to hear these things. I don't want to get overwhelmed. It's too big. I can't do anything about it. And like, actually say, okay, it is big. It is overwhelming to hear this, but let me use this to do something. Like, and there's a saying, evil prevails when good men do nothing. And so do something, like just something, pick one thing, just do something. And if everybody does something, then we can put an end to it. It had to be someone that looked at that giant and stopped letting it oppress the people and torment the people, and stop seeing the giant as so overwhelming and so overbig and so big, and didn't do anything about it, and finally seeing it and being like, no, we have to remove this. This has to be removed. This giant has to go down. So one is the lack of fight for the people, to fight, for kids, to fight against this, to change the mindset, to change the narrative, the complacency of, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed instead of fighting, like the rising up and fighting. No, we all have to do something, and we all have to join the fight. So that's one, is the mindsets. 2 would be the corruption. I remember before we started working with the government, it was like, that's what overwhelmed me the most. It wasn't the kids. Like, for me, the kids part is easy because we rescue them. And I get to almost instantly see the transformation when a kid is safe, and the healing that just takes place in our family style setup, and to see what happens. Like, really, at some it takes longer, but just to instantly see they are safe, like that is such a reward. So that part is not hard for me to hear their stories, because I know the ending of their story once we rescue them, and I know, so that part's not hard. But to fight against the corruptions and the mindsets, that part is hard. And I remember just being like, God, I'm having to change a whole government. Like, you're talking about a nation. Like, can a nation be saved in a day? Like, you're talking about higher level establishments, like what you were talking about in those things. So I think that is the corruption of that is very frustrating to me. The mindset or the mentality of how, of just that this is okay, or it's too, either one, that it's okay or it's too big to do anything about. I get frustrated with that, because then nobody does anything, And so I would say those things. And then the countries that I work in, Thailand and Brazil, the mindset of that as well, the corruption that's so embedded in the nation. I have to really be careful of, not hiring the people that will re-exploit the children, not, stealing money and stuff like that. So I get I get more frustrated with the mindsets of with that, and that isn't like, people can't just switch their mindsets. I can't just change that overnight, you know.
Yeah.
But it's more of a slow burn, and so I have to watch myself with that, and I have to watch myself with getting so frustrated with the government, you know, because I have to work that tension to be able to continue to rescue. But the cool thing about Brazil, in the very thing that it frustrated, it's been our fight. And there's a shirt that we did, and it's a campaign in Brazil, and it's my fight, my child, my fight, my Brazil, my body. And basically it's our campaign, and our girls there in all the projects, they got it. We have the Iron Chef of Brazil. His name's Focassa. He's also a famous martial arts guy, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he gets in and he's tatted from like just neck down, huge guy. He has a baby that has special needs, and so different things. So it's his fight against children too. And he's big, scary guy. Iron Chef has all the steakhouses in Brazil. He gets on a video and he's like, "We need to change this in Brazil. This is our fight. This is our child. These are their bodies. We need to stand up. We need to fight for the children in Brazil." And so we see it actually happening. We have voices. I just met with the goalie for Liverpool.
Wow.
And he's Brazilian. And so he's doing a whole thing for us too. So we have these ambassadors that are getting on TV. We got to change the Jesus statue orange, and we created our team created a national awareness against child exploitation and child trafficking. It's called Orange May a month. And we got a national holiday made in May for these children. And so the very thing that is my tension and my like you said, the most frustrating, we're not letting it stop us. We're hitting it head on, you know.
So with Brazil and South American countries, and Brazil, you think of the Jesus statue, and you think about the influence of the Roman Catholic Church in countries like Brazil. Is the Catholic Church, what is the Catholic Church doing in response to sex trafficking? Do you see the Catholic Church doing any good in that regard? Any sort of charities or anything?
So what people don't realize is there's different forms of Catholicism. So American Catholicism is different than Brazilian Catholicism, and the reason is this: a lot of slaves were brought to Brazil in the different ports of Brazil. So you have such a mix. And what happened is they brought this witchcraft called macumba, and macumba is a witchcraft, and so it's not. So they mix the two. So
because we like Mexicans do Santa Maria and stuff like that.
Yes, and
like
so it's a version, but if you go, it's even
that's like an
more,
African.
Yes, it's an African witchcraft.
Okay.
So it's different. Yeah.
Okay.
And so for example, so there was this area that the area that we've targeted that is like it's the greatest region of child exploitation. I've been to what would you call that? A graveyard site where they did child sacrifices and where the women would have abortions and bury the babies there. And then that whole village is known for miscarriages because of that, and like just crazy stuff going on. Like I went there and I just prayed over that place, and I said, not one more drop of blood will be spilled on this ground. This ground will not receive.
And it's witchcraft rituals, right?
Witchcraft rituals in the name of Catholicism, you know, and so that's why they mix it. So they mixed it when they came. And so this is what they're doing. They're sacrificing their children. They're performing abortions. They're doing this and putting it in those areas. And I saw these witch doctors, but this area in particular, which is the area that little girls sell their bodies for rice and beans, sell their bodies to fill their refrigerator. This area, there was this big, huge, and it's some Padre Cicero is his name, and he has a statue that's even bigger than, it's like huge. I would say it's about the size of the Jesus statue in Rio. It is huge, is humongous. So nobody knows Jesus, but everybody knows Father Cicero. And so we went up there to go and see and really understand, and they took us around this area, and they start showing us, these are all these pictures of Father Cicero, this is all these things, and I start seeing all these, it's like a stained chapel and all this stuff. So I'm looking for the Jesus cross, and so because I'm like, surely there's a Jesus cross, and surely at the end of this we're going to get to the Jesus story, but there's not. There's Mary, there's everything else, but everything is Father Cicero. And they started to show us, and this is the room that when they would bring the different children there and different stuff, and they're like, he was their Jesus. And so we get to the end of the chapel, and in the chapel, and I'm still looking around, so the tour lady, and she lights up when she talks about him. So the tour lady, I start talking to her, and I said, I see see what Father Cicero has done for the community, different things. But I want to ask you, I don't see a cross with Jesus. Like, do you, can I ask you? And I started asking her things about Jesus. And then I eventually realized, I said, so you're Catholic. Do you believe in Jesus? And she shook her head no. She said, I believe in Father Cicero. And so I started to tell her about Jesus, and I started to tell her all these different things. And this is like, it's a huge thing on a hill. This is a huge chapel church on the hill. And so so I start talking to her, and I start putting I put my hand on hers to say, do you want this Jesus? And I put my hand on hers and I said, do you want this Jesus? And literally she said, get off me. Like it like came out of her, like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it is crazy, but it is not, when you ask that, it's so different there because it is mixed with the witchcraft there. And so, and that came when when they brought Macumba, when they brought that on there. So so they are a part of it. They're a part of this mentality. They're a part of it, but not in the traditional Catholicism. It's in their Catholicism is mixed with witchcraft in most of the places that I've been, and so they're a part of it because of that.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. It was insane. I was like, I had never, because Catholicism, you know, there's still a Jesus on the cross. You know, we believe in that same Jesus. There was no Jesus on the cross there.
It's very structured, and it's very and very charity driven. So I'm just curious. You said the city of God is. Sorry, well, that's irony. That's ironic, right?
No, it is.
So you have India with Mother Teresa and stuff like that. So I think there's an overall assumption that in all areas that there's a strong Catholic emphasis or history that there comes in play with it. This charity or care for the children, but
and they do. You have Catholic charities that are amazing around the world that I've seen that are, I mean, I just met a sweet girl. She's 17. She's like, I've seen what they do and I want to be a missionary. Can I come join you? A 17-year-old. So that is their heart. But in that side of the world, because of the influence of witchcraft and different things, it's a different mentality in that area.
You described to me a situation when you were on the river.
In the Amazon.
In the Amazon. And this is that area of the Macumba influence.
It's all over. It's
Could you describe that? Just what you experienced?
Yeah. So we're in 3 regions in Brazil. We're in Rio de Janeiro, where the favelas are the strongholds and the drug trafficking is the strongholds. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world, actually, to be. And so when we're in Rio, and then we're in the north, which is Campina, it's Serra, Juazeiro do Norte, the north of Brazil. And that's where it's more the backwards kind of, it's expected for little girls to go into a child exploitation. A father will sleep with a daughter to prepare her for a life so that somebody else won't hurt her and she'll be prepared. So the father needs to so this is the mentalities I'm talking about. Jeez. And that's where I met the 5-year-old that sold her body for a banana, and all the stories about selling their body for food in the refrigerators was there. The next area, our third area, is the Amazon. And in the Amazon, so Thailand's known as the armpit of the world for sex tourism. For more the regions of Asia, Japan, it services Japan, Australia, Europe. But here on our side, the 2 areas for children involved in prostitution, exploitation is 1, Costa Rica, and 2, Brazil. It's one of the largest. So when I was there, they were talking about these. So what will happen is in the poorest areas where the kids are selling their body for rice and beans, they can jump on with one of the truck drivers that's making their ways up to the beaches where the tourists are coming, and they can make more money. So you'll have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old girls jumping in the truck of a truck driver, going in the bed of the truck, doing whatever they want so that they can go all the way up to the beaches so that they can get more. And sometimes if the truck driver gets mad, if they won't do exactly what they want, they'll kick them out of the moving trucks. And there's, so there's this highway, just like it's a famous trafficking highway. It's the BR 112. And it's the famous trafficking highway from the most destitute, poorest, you're talking about adobe clay huts, area to the beaches, and then eventually like just into the wealthiest places. So that's the second area. The third area is the Amazon. So the Amazon, you have these rich yachts that go on along the Amazon River. You have a lot of Americans, Europeans that also go there. And so what happens is they say 9 out of 10 homes, the children are being exploited in that home, in these huts, 9 out of 10 of them. And so what happens is these rich yachts, when I was there, I actually saw it. These rich yachts will pull up to a port, and you have these 55 to 60-year-old men in their Speedos coming out with their bald head or their gray, hair, come out and see these little beautiful Brazilian girls that are swimming in the water and point to them and say which ones, you want, or negotiate. They go find the head villager, find the parent, name their price, and they put these little girls on the boat. Another thing happens is they go around and they have their own little wooden boats, and they'll send their daughters or their sons out on the wooden boats to these yachts, and they'll have these sex parties along those rivers. And they say that it is so vast in the Amazon that they cannot patrol them. The police cannot patrol them. And they said you can hear the screams and the cries of the children off the waters. And basically, if something goes wrong in this, they'll just chain something to that child, throw them over the side of the boat, and send that little rickety wooden boat back with a pile of money to buy the parents' silence. And they'll never say anything ever again. And so this is happening like just regularly in the Amazon. That's why we targeted it. I went there and I saw and I heard, and I actually saw this transaction happening. The little girl didn't go on, but I saw them come out. I saw the guys come out there in their Speedos and their bellies hanging over with a beer in their hand, with music and pointing and saying stuff. Thankfully, the kids got out of the water, but I saw this happen. Like, I'm standing, and I feel like God let me see that happen so I could really put an urgency to start something. But when we went to a home that had, it was some missionaries, and she was Brazilian. He was from Florida. They had 70 children, and and then they had a hidden home that we went to that was like 2.5 hours away, very hidden, very remote. And there was 80 children there with 2 caregivers. Literally, she fell on her face in front of me crying, and she said, I don't want your money. She said, I don't want your support. Please start a home. I just turned away 12 children today. I just turned away 12. The courts call me. Everyone calls me. I just turned away 12 children. Please come here and start a home. I don't care what you do. We're not in competition. I need you to come here and start a home. We just turned away 12 children. My heart can't take it anymore. I'm getting older and I can't take this anymore. Please come and do this. And actually the government, so we launched our program. We have a prevention project with 200 children in that project alone. And one of them we already started negotiating, and the government is begging us, and they said, please come and start a safe home. We can't do this anymore. The problem's too big. Will you please come? So that's our next step, but that's the Amazon. Yes.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I want to ask a question.
Oh gosh.
I've heard it said though before that there are a lot of phony sex trafficking organizations out there that will raise a lot of money, and the admin fees and the marketing is like 90% of their budget, and like 10% of it is actual work, and they have millions of dollars, and they'll at the end of the year say, we saved 3 kids. And I've heard people say, man, it's like it's very popular right now that they say they're doing this, but they're not. And we've always known you, but I've known, like, you actually are doing it. Does it bother you that those organizations exist or are not really fulfilling their mandate or call that they say?
So it's crazy. That should have been my answer to the first thing when you said what
frustrates you.
Because even you saying that makes me want to cry.
Wow.
Because I remember at one point just saying, God, like I remember before we had our promised land and the family style safe homes, we were in a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, like concrete jungle with no grass. And we had 60 kids, and we were literally kidnapping them from the traffickers, literally getting babies, and that's babies were going for $18. And I just remember, and that's when we actually got that little boy, 1.5-year-old, and opened up his diaper and saw that he'd been messed with. So we were having these real life things in front of us. And at that time, I didn't have time to go on Facebook. I didn't have time to go on, there's a rescue, a child is dying. You're not going to go and do a social media post. I didn't have anybody doing anything like that. We were rescuing, we were busy doing the work. Right. I didn't have anybody doing our media or anything like that. And I remember like the local clinic would call us, the Burmese local clinic, because they would have the baby, and then there would be traffickers waiting and ready, and people were in and out, so they couldn't monitor it. So I remember them calling us, and it was at a time where I couldn't even feed the babies rice. And I remember just saying like to them, hey, I can't feed the children I have right now. We're really struggling. Like, can you find somewhere else to give this baby? And babies are so expensive, obviously, you know, you guys know. And so a rescued baby would drive your budget up $300 a month. So you have the Pampers, you have the formula, you have the baby mama, you know, you have all of that. Yeah. And so all of that would go up instantly. And I didn't have that. Like, I didn't know how I was going to, and I was responsible. So I was like, I know you don't add more children for, you know, like it doesn't make sense if I can't feed the ones I have. So I asked the clinic and I asked the hospital, what if I don't take this child? And they said, if you don't take this child will end up in the hands of a trafficker within 72 hours. And so if you don't, there's nowhere else, nobody else will take this baby. And I remember just crying out to God and saying, God, I'm doing everything you've asked me to do. And I don't have a media platform. I don't know how to do any of that. Like, but I'm doing what you asked me to do. Something's got to give. And I remember that point of frustration, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I had, at that point, like I said, something's got to give. And then from there, God supernaturally provided the promised land and the rice and gave me the promise, you know? So I really had to really check my heart to not get bitter and to just be like, okay, you know, that it's kind of like that passage where it says, some preach Christ for other motives, for this and for this, but I'm just going to rejoice that Christ is preached, whatever, you know? So at the very little, at least they're talking about child trafficking and child exploitation, at least some words, it might cost awareness. $2 million to bring awareness, but at least they're doing it. But it's, I mean, this just literally happened. Some other board members that are pastor friends of mine, they came and they said, hey, did that other organization ever contact you? Because they're an awareness organization, but they're looking for safe homes to trust. And they said they have $2 million in the bank and they're just looking for other children's homes. Did they ever contact you? And it's funny, but I contacted them in Bangkok. I said, hey, I heard that you guys are around here. You're looking for a safe home.
You got some money.
You're like, this person told me that we all know each other. Like, hey, you're looking for a safe home. We're your people. We got them, you know, like, come up and see us, come up and do this. Let's network and all this stuff. And it was like crickets. So I just have to do what God, I have to stay in my lane. I have to keep my heart right and pure, not get bitter against people, you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. And just be like, well, at least child, you know, exploitation awareness is being preached and everything. But it does hurt my heart. It did, you know, it affected me probably before more. And then now it's like, I'm used to it now. I think in the beginning when it was really hard and I'm like, this is life and death. And we need, you know, this. Yeah. We don't even have rice for rescued children, and here, this and this. And so that was one of the hardest things for me. And now I think I'm okay. I hope so. I still, obviously not if I start to cry when you ask me.
Well, I mean, you know, I think righteous indignation and righteous anger is perfectly acceptable. I mean, I hear you, and I couldn't imagine, because I'm aware of, you know, being a pastor, I'm aware of so many organizations that come through and you look for the fruit, right? You look for, and so it's like us knowing you for so many years and me knowing how many children you guys are rescuing between Brazil and Thailand, and then someone will tell me, you got to check out this organization. They did 6 kids this past year, and I'm thinking, great. I mean, one life is great, it's beautiful. But I know how much they raised, and 6 kids to the admin costs, which is marketing and awareness. The math isn't mathing, you know. And not saying they're doing anything unjustly with the money. It's just it appears they don't want it. They're not getting their hands dirty like you are, you know. And so I definitely sympathize with the emotions of tears of thinking of it, because I would feel the same exact way, you know. Yeah.
So what's the bigger need, financial support or missionaries called to this,
or something else?
Yeah. So I mean, it's all a great need. I think for us right now. I think for us right now we have. I do need more missionaries that we can trust and people that will run projects.
And you're talking about permanent missionaries, not the 6-day missionaries,
yes,
right?
Yes. That is for them. Those 6-day trips are for them.
Right.
Because we love them.
Right.
That's not for us.
That's great. That's a great
That's
point.
good
Though.
perspective.
People need to know that.
Yes, and that's
Yeah, people need
okay.
to know
If
that.
we
Yeah.
understand that
Yeah.
and going into it, then there's
Right,
no
right.
unmet expectations.
Because I'm going to Thailand to do blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, you're going to Thailand for yourself, and for your own faith, which is great.
Which is fine. If you put it that way, and
Yeah.
if that's an expectation, and we all know it, and it's all out there, that's awesome. Let's do this then.
Right,
We will give you the best encounter, with this and help you be a bridge to the nations for your call. Then let's do that, because we can do that too, So,
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes.
So you need called missionaries, right?
Yes, we do. That because we need people that we can trust in these places, in these places of corruption, in these places of that. And actually we have, like I said, I have 78 national staff in Thailand. Burma, of course, because we're in a coup right now from the military junta, all of them are nationals and no foreigners should be there inside permanently right now. And then in Brazil, I actually have a missionary. She's Canadian and he is from Brazil. He's from Manaus, he's from the Amazon, and that's a married couple up there. And my nationals are killing it, but we do need missionaries. We need missionaries that can just come in, and you just know, when they come in, their motives are pure. They're coming, they gave everything up to come here, and so we need missionaries. What else do we need? We need...
And we had someone that came from our church on a little trip, and she stayed, right?
Yes, for 4 years.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's exactly what we needed. She's a therapist, counselor, and she boom, really got our kids
went on
to
one of our trips,
place.
And she's like, I'm moving here.
Yeah.
One of our
A licensed therapist, counselor. Exactly what we needed. That is specialized in early childhood trauma.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That was that. Now that's what we need, stuff like that. That is what we need. I would say we need that. I would say we need other resources that aren't just money. So other things like this and platforms and awareness, because we're doing the work. So that if we're doing work, we don't have time for all the awareness.
Yeah. Other people need to facilitate the conversation.
Yes.
And
I'm leaving on Sunday. I don't have anybody going to churches and raising money for Life Impact and talking about
no
Life
one's following
Impact.
you with a camera.
I get back on a plane. I'm back in Thailand. I'm back in the dirt. And then after I'm back in Burma. I'm back in the Brazil. Well, Burma, but Brazil in the favelas.
in the
Amazon. We're on boats. This isn't.
You don't got time to do an Instagram reel, right?
So we need help with that kind of stuff. So I would say resources also that are beyond money. Stuff like that. Awareness for us that keeps getting the word out there and keeps getting that out there. So I would say that. I would say people, and the resource of their skill set. The greatest thing that happened to us was a missionary couple. He was his third generation horticulturalist, and then she was interior design, architecture, major, minor, and they built our family style safe home, 17 of them on our promised land. And then we just started a greenhouse, chicken coop, cricket farm, fish farm to, if anything happened like COVID again, we're 70% self-sustainable on our promised lands. So if we have people that have these skill sets and will come and stay, let's say it's not long-term. Longer term like that. Let's say it is a month and they'll come and pioneer this or come and pioneer, some kind of work, or come and train our people in this and leave these skill sets. And they could dedicate, a shorter, longer term like that, but they don't have to move their whole family. We need things like that, resources like that are beyond money. It's more like skill sets that can help us. If and I say it like this. Like I say, so with all of this, and we leave these things saying, okay, well, what can I do? I can't move my family. I can't do this. I'm supposed to be here. I have this business. I have this. And what I say is, what is in your hand? Just like what God said to Moses to free the captives and free the people. What is in your hand? What is it? Time? Is it treasure? Is it talent? What is in your hand that you can use to help free slavery, to help free modern day slavery? And so,
So that's really good. Does it upset you if someone goes to Thailand on a vacation?
No. Do you want me to cry? Do you want to get me mad? No, I'm teasing. I'm sorry.
The emotional reactions make great clips.
I know. He's like, I want you to cry.
I want the TikTok clips.
So tell me, does it upset me?
Does it upset you if someone, answer could be no, but if someone just goes to, because you hear Thailand's a beautiful place, you got to go to it.
Yes.
But obviously you can't turn a blind eye to what happens in these countries.
Yeah.
Does it bother you if someone just, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to this beauty side of Thailand, but to get there, I have to almost put a blinder on and act like this thing doesn't exist? Does that bother you in any way, or like should that be an awareness for an American, is like destabilize their tourism? If you want to do something, don't go to the island side, or is that more of a hindrance? Does them going to that side still help the economy? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
My gosh, you guys have like really good questions.
Yeah. That's tough.
We're curious
really
people.
good. I know. So, but you say that, and then I think of Hawaii. Hawaii has such a huge prostitution problem too, and homeless problems. So do people stop going to Hawaii?
No, they don't.
No, they're going even more, even though it's more expensive. You know what I mean? And so for me, like, that's so hard. Like, honestly, I don't want to say, stop going, then you won't feed their tourism, because if they're going to, let's say, a family trip in, I've been there, Phuket or somewhere like that, there's areas that have nothing to do with the prostitution like that, but I think that it doesn't hurt to be aware, and why don't you do something good while you're there too? I know you're there to unwind and to shut down. I understand this. I always would joke, because I'd be like, I need to go to Hawaii because I can't go to the beaches of Thailand because I can't turn it off, right? And so we would joke about that and different things. And so I'm like, why can't you find an organization, and while you're there, be a part of the solution too? Like, why don't you just spend 3 more days and there's children's homes on all of those islands. There's children's homes in every area. There's work. You find out an organization that you've heard about because you know about this, a reputable organization. And I know they've turned it into like they call it vacation tourism, different things like that. I've seen them do it in Cambodia and stuff. But I have a different take on that. Honestly, I think, my gosh, who wouldn't? They're giving their time, and they're coming, and they're saying, hey, I'm going to go on vacation there, but I want to be part of the solution. So I'm going to volunteer 3 days, or I'm going to find an organization. I'm going to go visit that with my kids. I'm going to take 3 days of my holiday and go and visit it, go and see it, and go and be in part, and maybe then support it monthly, or because you saw it from there, or make yourself aware of that and be a part of that, So I don't, because I'm telling, just because you don't go, I mean, there are beautiful islands and beaches, and Thailand is neat. It is. It's just, there are ways to fight it. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to not be a part of it, and to be a part of the solution, and to be a part of the fight against it, and still go on your vacation.
I think in some respects, like, that aside, it's like ludicrous when I'll be on like TikTok and you'll get you'll show in a video where individuals are showing like ladyboys on the streets and stuff like that.
It's crazy, that's what they're called.
And they celebrate, or at least like it's they're exposing you to this level of side. But you also think to yourself, there's this American person filming this TikTok content, all while this is an adult lady boy. They probably haven't been in this since they were a child, but just they're purposely turning the camera, or as they're there, they're manipulating. You're seeing this side of children that you're just like kind of turning a blind eye to. And you're just saying that we're just making good content to show you the funny side of the red light district of Thailand.
And that gets me mad, because you're desensitizing it. You're desensitizing, like it's just like the movie Hangover. And a lot of it was filmed in red light districts, and it's like, and you're making it party, and you're making it fun, and you're desensitizing it. And then so when I see 35-year-olds on that plane, like about 3 guys, and then and overhear what they're talking about, and overhear how cheap the sex was and different things, like that stuff ticks me off. That stuff gets me mad, because absolutely in that side. And when you desensitize it, it's just like with pornography and trafficking and that connection. When people desensitize desensitize that and understand that that's a supply and demand chain too. Like yes, that now that is different. Now you're talking about you're not talking about taking your family to go ride elephants in Krabi. You're talking about going to the red light district and it's all fun and games. And no, that's you're desensitizing and you're making light of exploitation and of in that. Yeah, maybe they weren't forced at one point, but I've been there and I've been in that area with the lady boys, and there's little boys that are running the beers, and there's little boys at about 12 years old. I've seen little boys. It's called Soy Cowboy is actually what it is, and I've seen that. And like you said, there's kids over there that are in that area, and it's just all it is. It's a grooming. It's grooming. It's desensitizing. It's over sexualizing, and all that path is just leading into exploitation of a child. That ends up of exploitation of a child, because what happens is somebody gets drunk and they don't want that lady boy, but they want that little boy, because what happens is they start getting scared of the prostitution and ones that are freely selling themselves because they're scared of HIV, they're scared of diseases, and so they think that the kids can't carry it as much or they don't have it as much, and so their eyes start looking at these children. You're already in a perverse spirit. You're already operating in perversion. So to go for that little 12-year-old boy that's right there that's selling the flower, or that little 10-year-old or that little one, I know that ring. That's where the road leads to. That's what the grooming. That's what, when we rescued some boys from a begging ring, that was what the end game is first they're in the begging ring and we desensitize them, we torture them, we get them to check out, and then eventually we can put them in the bars with the lady boys at 12 and 13 and 14, and they'll do sexual acts. So we have to connect that somehow. They have to connect that leads to that, and it's not funny and it's not okay, and there's not a like when you do that, you are exploiting the exploited. When you do that, you are feeding into child exploitation when you do that, and that does equal that.
Does the monarchy have any concern about these things?
Yes, I have to be very careful.
I know. I don't want to give you
no problem. So we have it's called lese majest law.
Okay.
So if you speak anything bad about the monarchy, so I'll just tell you in the most easiest way I can. So we had a shift. So we had a king before, a beautiful, wonderful king of Thailand, and he passed away, and everybody loves him. He's still the father of Thailand, but he passed away. And so now when he passed away, the military took over. Okay. And so we have been in kind of like a silent coup. We had protests around the time of COVID, and when the protests in America were happening, we were having protests as well. They have now been silenced, and with that law, so that's what happened. So now we are ran by a military, as nobody realizes that we are still under a coup. There is another king, and so he is taking over, but the power is with the military right now. Okay. And so that's where we're at.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned the word grooming, and that's popular on social media and on the media platforms right now with America, because there are elements of our society that are trying to normalize.
Yes.
They're calling, some professors have liberal or leftist, liberal, however you want to say it, have come up with this term MAP, minor attracted persons, and trying to desensitize and normalize pedophilia. Yes. And then you have these drag queen shows for toddlers that are happening, and these sexualized books that are in these elementary schools and junior high schools now, and so on. So when you see this happening in America, what are your thoughts?
You can get me to cry again. Gosh. I know where that road leads, because I'm in these countries, in Brazil and in Thailand, and it leads to, again, you're exploiting a generation. Like, you are normalizing, you're calling good evil and evil good, and you're doing this to these children, and it's going to be beyond repair for this nation. And you're going to turn into a third world nation if you continue down this path. That's deep. Yeah. You will turn into a third world nation if you continue down this path. You will be like Brazil, where you have 8-year-old boys raping their 4-year-old sister. And you will be where 5-year-olds are performing sex acts for a banana. And maybe not for a banana. Let's say for the newest Barbie doll. You know what I mean? When you start over in sexual, when you start doing that and good becomes evil and evil becomes good for a child, children are pure for a reason. There's purity. There's in that when you start taking that away and overexposing them too soon, my gosh, you take away the soul of a nation. You take away a whole generation. Like you honestly,
Wow,
you'll turn into one of the third world nations that I serve in very soon. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see Brazil, and this is the problem. This is where, like I said, you have 8-year-old boys sleeping with their 4-year-old sister, trying to do something to their 4-year-old sister. You have, and we hear these stories, and they're horrendous. They're once a year on the news. You will be hearing this more when you over sexualize that, and then you awaken them before it's time and before it's right. They don't know, and they already said the number one abuser of children is other children that have been sexually abused.
Wow.
So you start doing this and opening this up. You've wakened a sleeping giant that it will be very hard to reverse.
Yeah. I remember I was pastoring when I first started youth pastoring. Within the first year, I had a youth student that was 17, and she came to me. And she said, hey, I think I need counseling. I think I need to talk to someone. And I said, okay, well, what about? She said, well, when I was 12, my dad would consistently rape me, and I got pregnant by him. And my mom was the one who took me to the abortion clinic to have the abortion. And she says, I don't think I'm okay. And in seminary, they don't teach you what to do in your first year as a youth pastor to even say, to someone how to process that. And obviously over years we did help her process but she still struggled and things like that, and her being a young adult today now. Are there any just some key things that you kind of first do with some of these individuals who are really struggling with trauma from things that have happened? Nowadays in America we'll label it like sexual assault, but it's so much deeper than that. And it that to me has even become just like a friendlier term to what it really is, which is just detestable, in every way. What are there any kind of key things you do to help someone process who a child or anyone that when they come to you, or is there a 3-step thing that you do, or 4-step thing, or anything like that?
Yes, we do. Because we work with children in that, and sometimes a child, you can't, God created our mind in such a beautiful way that sometimes it will, if it can't handle it so that you don't go crazy, it'll block out some things, and you'll kind of block out, and then it'll release it when you can handle it. So if you try to tap into that trauma before they're able to process it, instead of it naturally processing, then that's different. So what we do when they first come through our rescue home and our safe home and our doors, we teach them safe touch. So first we have to teach them we're the good guys, not the bad guys, because everybody in their life that was supposed to be good has been bad. So they don't know that they can trust us. So one for them over there, we teach them we're the good guys, we're not the bad guys. And they have to just see that over and over, right? But one thing we teach them is safe touch. Like, this is your body. These are your rights. Like, what happened to you is not your shame. It's they did something wrong to you. Like this, it's not because you did anything. It's not because you welcomed it and you opened it or you acted a certain way. It is not your fault. When somebody pushes their boundary over you, it is not, and we take away the shame from them, that they don't carry that shame on them anymore. We try to show them that they are not, they're not the one to blame for this. It's so important with kids that that person, whoever did that, that was the offender. That was the one. So that was the first thing. And we do safe touch, but we for children, it's called play therapy, and we do play therapy and art therapy. And so if they can't verbally or aren't ready to verbally process, they color and they start doing it. And then they start drawing scenes, or they start drawing things of their life and different stuff. And so we can see through their colors and, and different, oh, this is my mom. This is my mom's boyfriend. Oh, this is me, and so they color and they'll tell us. And then we also give them dolls, and they play out like different things with dolls. And so show us what a typical family night is. Show us what your, typical time is. Show us when you're at the house with with your mom. Show us what, and then so they'll just start acting out with dolls, and then we can tell. So we do therapy like that. In America, you guys you have way more resources than we do. There's so much people that specialize in child trauma therapy, or even other ones, good ones. And I know you guys, as you know those people. So so that's what the thing is. We do in a Christian way, with not just like psychology. We put on medicine, different stuff. I'm not, but because that's a go-to in Thailand. It's okay. Let's process with them if they need different stuff. Okay, but let's process with them what has happened. So we give them those tools of processing, if that makes sense. So therapy for children, play, or art therapy for children, safe touch. Now, what are the rules now? The rules are, if anybody ever tries to touch you there or do this, this is what you do. This is your rights. We give them back their dignity. We give them back their voice. We give them back their, basically, the way they feel, their security in that. And we try to teach them they're not, they're not at blame. We give them back. We take away the shame from them. So those are more the steps that we do. Those are our first steps as soon as they come in. Safe touch, play therapy, art therapy, getting them. And then with them, we walk through them from 3 months to a year to where they can transition to their forever family on the promised land. So those are our steps with children. So for me here, I could see where you guys do have a lot of Christian therapy. You do have a lot of mentorship. You do have a lot of people walking through that process in that, and taking away that shame from them and really restoring their dignity.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy you said about that story. So that was part of, in Brazil, I think that's what broke me. I met with another large children's organization, and I'd heard story after story, and this last one broke me. And it was an 11-year-old girl, and she was holding the hand of the boyfriend, and they were in their bed, the mother and the boyfriend's bed, and she'd say, "Mom, make him stop. Mom, make him stop." And the mother would not make him stop because she was afraid to lose the boyfriend, and she's afraid to lose the income.
Wow.
And that's what you see, that they'll do that because they're afraid to lose that lover, and they're afraid to lose that income for the family. And we see that over and over again. And it kind of ties back to what you said, where do I see you going? Those children will grow up to be adults. Yeah. And so if they're over-sexualized at a young age, what is the end? What is this going to reproduce? Right. And they will grow up to be results. Right. Where is the boundaries? Where's the stop? Where's the end to it?
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
That's massive.
Yeah.
So what is your ultimate vision for your life before you depart to be with Christ? What are you praying for specifically that you want in place for your legacy?
This is also a crazy question because I was just talking about it. At the end of the day, I don't want to be known as the girl who rescued kids. I was just talking about this. For me, I got radically saved at 18, 19 as a go-go dancer in clubs of Hollywood, and I know God saved my life, and I know I would be dead if it wasn't for him. And so I committed, my personal vendetta was to protect and fight for innocent and vulnerable children, and to tell as many people about Jesus Christ before the age 19, because nobody ever gave me an out. Nobody ever invited me to church. I did not know one Christian. Nobody ever said, you don't have to live this life that you're living. You're living it too fast. You're going to go into destruction. No, they just thought that I would reject them and reject another way of life. And so those are my two personal vendettas. So in that, I said, God, if you give me a second shot at this life, it's yours. All these broken pieces of my mind, my heart, my body, I give these pieces to you. And if you could do anything, they're yours. So it wasn't so much that my life goal was to rescue every child from child exploitation. Yeah, I want to do that. But in the end of it, I've been thinking about this lately, and I asked God, you've given us so many lands, so many countries. We're going to start Life Impact Angola in February, actually. They speak Portuguese. One of my teachers in Brazil, she came, she was weeping, and she just said, hey, I know I'm serving the children in Brazil, but my country needs Life Impact. My country needs us. Can I go back to my country and start Life Impact Angola? So February, we're starting Life Impact Angola. And we just, right now, we're in negotiations for, it actually was this huge crack house, and it's in the most dangerous favela of the City of God. And one one of my girls, she like literally goes with her baby on the hip and is negotiating with the head. Wow. It's called the Red Command. They even have their roots in Colombia, the head drug traffickers. She's negotiating with them. They're going to give us this building and we're going to turn it into a vocational training center for kids so that they don't have to sell their bodies. They don't have to be a drug trafficker or a drug trafficker's girlfriend. In this building, we could reach 300 children in 1 week in this building. And the drug traffickers already gave us the soccer field. Wow. And so, and our negotiation with them, they have like 10 kids, right? And we're like, your kids can come free. We'll teach your kids English. We'll do this. And they're like, so their kids we're taking care of their kids too. Wow. So they have a person like said, you just have to protect us and basically give us the right to the soccer field. And if the whole community knows that the drug traffickers are protecting us and give us the right, nobody can do anything. Everybody will be scared. Nobody will do anything. They still cut off hands if you steal from the drug traffickers there. They have a whole community. If you do something, they'll cut the body into different pieces and the pigs will eat the piece of the body. So they're still very much scared of these drug traffickers. So if they run the show there, so because we have their blessing and because we have this, nobody will touch us. Nothing can happen. This is happening like literally right now as I talk to you in these areas. We're building the first war zone orphanage for the kids in the war zone in Burma. We got a secret location. It's the trade route, so it'd be the last place hit in the Civil War. So it's a strategic area. So we got all these things going on, right? And one day I asked God, why did you trust me with all of this? Like, why have you given me these relationships, these people, these, people that will help us, like these lands and these buildings and these nations? Like, I'm not anybody special. Like I'm just I'm 4'11" and a half for crying out loud. You know what I mean? I come from Simi Valley, California. Like there's nothing special about me that like, why are you giving me all of this? And I literally heard God say, because I can trust you, because I can trust you. And I know I always have your yes. And so my end game is when I write my headstone and when that on it says, here laid the woman that God could trust. That no matter what he gives me, if it's a child, if it's a nation, if it's a project, if it's a whatever, that God can trust me. Like I want to be known as a woman that God could trust, that he could trust with his children, that he could trust with his heart, that he could trust with his mission, that he could trust with his border, that he can trust with a nation. My end game is that when all at the end of this, I hear, well done, good and faithful servant, that I was good and that I was faithful and that I was someone that God could trust, that I would say yes and that I would never say no, and that he would trust me with it, that I'd always use it for him and never for myself, and so that's my end game.
That's beautiful.
So the conversation has been absolutely incredible. How can people who are listening to this or watching this, how can they get connected with you? How can they give to you? Which we encourage you guys to do that. How can they give to you? Or also, like you said, though, greater than that is someone could be listening to this and they could be a doctor, they could be a nurse, they could be a farmer or whatever. And they're like, I love this story. I got to get connected with them. How do they do that?
Yes. So we do have social media now.
Yeah.
So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on all of that. So we're Life Impact INTL, short for international. We have a great website, www.lifeimpactintl.org. So any of the social media platforms, the website, there's a get involved, message us, talk to us, all right there. We're in the UK, we're in Australia now, we're here in the US, Brazil, Thailand, and of course Burma, but those other nations were all set up as foundations in the UK, in Australia, in Thailand, in Brazil, in all those nations. So if any of those countries or in the good US of A, in those areas, you can find us, lifeimpactintl.org.
Awesome. And your social medias are the same as that? It's all Life Pack International?
Life Impact INTL, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Separate Lana Vasquez?
No. I don't even know. I know. I'm so old. I don't even know how to work Instagram.
I know. I just get all your updates from Facebook. That's where I know what's going on.
Thanks for logging on to Facebook just for me. I know you guys do
That's what I do it. Yeah, just to make sure everything's kosher.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We've enjoyed it.
What an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being our first guest.
Yeah, that's an honor. I'm honored. Thank you so much for considering me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us during that interview. Incredible, tons of tears that happened during that. We would love for you to be able to support Lana Vasquez and Life Impact International. So make sure you check out the show notes, check out her website to be able to partner with her. Like she said today, if you have some type of talent, some type of need that you can help fulfill, you can reach out to them directly on their website, or you could give financially at their website that's listed in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe, check out our website. You can go to beyond.faith to see where we are on all the platforms. Thanks.